Good morning, dear friends. Welcome back. Yeah, after a gap of around 1 week, we are again back. Once again, welcome you all. So, dear friends, yeah, in the first chapter, the first one, we started in the last week. So, that was about matter, isn't it? And we saw that this matter is made up of tiny particles called as the atoms. And today, in this chapter, that is chapter number 4, atomic structure, we are going to study about this atom in detail. How this atom was discovered, which particles are present in this atom, or which subparticles are present in atom, and how they were discovered. And now, what is the role of these particles, proton, electron, and neutrons? So all these things we are going to study in this chapter. So dear friends, the first thing, introduction of this chapter. Why we are going to study this chapter, what we are going to study, and how we are going to study this chapter. So firstly, why we are going to study this chapter? So dear friends, the physical, chemical properties of any matter are dependent on the types of atoms that are present, the atoms that are present. And now this atom consists of proton, electron, and neutrons. And the number of electrons in every element is different, and they decide the chemical properties. So that is why the elements show different chemical properties. And so we are going to study about this section. That is, we are going to study about this atom. Now, elements show different properties. Then there are different concepts related to this. What we are going to study in this chapter is the different concepts. Like we are going to study what is a discharge tube. Then we are going to see what are the fundamental particles like the proton, electron, and neutrons present. Then we are going to study the different atomic models. That means what happened? It was the scientist who started studying this atom. And slow by slow, they put forth their theories. And each theory was modified. It was made simpler and simpler. So we are going to study about these theories or these models. Then we are going to study about the atomic number Z, atomic mass number A. Then we need to define isotopes of elements. Isotopes of element, a new concept, really new one, good one. Then we are going to see what is atomic mass, electronic configuration. Then electronic configuration is used to find out the valency. Already we have learned valency. Then we have also used this concept of valency to derive the molecular formula. We have used this concept of valency to derive the molecular formula. So we are going to study about this valency, but by taking the help of electronic configuration. Then we are going to see how atoms combine together to form the different molecules. How atoms combine together to form the different molecules. And we are also going to see the way they combine, the way by which they combine. That is a chemical bonding taking place. So we need to study about this chemical bonding also. So this was about why we are going to study, what we are going to study, and how we are going to study. Yes, to study this chapter, we are going to use the textbook provided by the board. Then we are going to see the different videos available on YouTube. Then we can take the different examples from our day-to-day life. So all these concepts can be used to study this part. So dear friends, let's move ahead. Yeah, let us move ahead with the atomic structure. So chapter number 4, atomic structure. Taking the concept of atom ahead, let us study this atom in detail now. Let us study this atom in details. So everything around us is the matter. Maybe a solid state, liquid state, gaseous state, maybe your mountains, maybe your trees, maybe the mobile that you are looking after, or the glass of water that is filled for you. That is all matter. And scientists studied this matter slowly. And they proposed their opinion about this matter and its nature. What is this matter made up of? What are the properties of this matter? And scientists went on studying, and they put forth their opinion, or you can call this opinion as the theories. So it was around 600 BCE that Maharshi Kanada, Indian scientist or Indian philosopher, who put forth firstly the idea of matter. Yeah, what he said, that the smallest particle of matter is called as the Parmanu. The smallest particle of a matter, smallest one, is called as the Parmanu. And today we say that Parmanu means your atom. We say Parmanu means atom. And what did Maharshi said? Maharshi said that this Parmanu is indestructible. Indestructible. You cannot destruct it. You cannot divide it. And eternal particle of a matter. And this Parmanu is the eternal, basic particle of the matter. And now he also suggested that, he also said that these Parmanu are invisible. They cannot be seen by the naked eye. They cannot be seen by the naked eye. And Parmanu does not exist in a free state. A single Parmanu cannot be seen. It was by the scientist or a philosopher who said at that time that they cannot be seen by the naked eye and they do not exist in a free state. But these Parmanus combine with other Parmanus to form the bigger Parmanus. These Parmanus combined with other Parmanus to form bigger Parmanu, and he called these bigger Parmanus as Anu. He called it as Anu. See, Parmanu, today we call it as atom. Anu, we call it as a molecule. We call it as a molecule. So, what he says, that Parmanus of same substances combine with each other to produce a Divyanuka. Parmanus of same substance. Suppose hydrogen is a substance. So the Parmanu of one hydrogen will combine with the Parmanu of another hydrogen. That is two Parmanus of hydrogen. Two Parmanus of hydrogen will combine together to produce the Divyanuka. That is a diatomic molecule. Divyanuka means two. Two Parmanus. Divyanuka means two Parmanus. So it's a diatomic molecule in today's language. And they may combine together to form a, yes, to form a Trianuka. To form a Trianuka. That means triatomic molecule. That means a triatomic molecule. And so he also said that the Parmanus combine to produce a chemical change. Parmanus, they can combine together, produce a chemical change in presence of heat. In presence of heat. And he gave the examples of that time. So in presence of heat of sun, in presence of heat of sun, the fruits undergo a chemical change. They undergo the ripening. They undergo the ripening. And this was one of the simplest chemical changes seen in the nature. He gave this example that the Parmanus undergo a change in presence of heat, or the baking of the earthen pots. Earthen pots, when they are baked, they turn into a blackish color. They turn into a blackish color. And this was also a chemical change that he put forth at that time. Now, as I said, every time man goes on to make the things simpler, to make the things simpler. So it was the scientist Democritus after this. It was the scientist or philosopher Democritus after this that he said that the smallest indivisible particle of a matter can be called as an atom. He said that the smallest indivisible particle of a matter is called as atom. And this term atom, is derived from the Greek word atomos. Is derived from the Greek word atomos. And atomos means indivisible, that cannot be divided. That cannot be divided. So Democritus said that the matter is made up of smallest indivisible particle. Smallest indivisible particle. And according to his theory, atoms are always in a motion. They are continuously moving and they are indestructible. You cannot divide atom. But he said at that time that atoms cannot be divided. And today, it's very clear that atoms can be divided into subatomic particles like proton, electron, neutrons, isn't it? So every time the scientists put forth the theory, and the theory made our concepts clear and easier, clear and easier. So now just we saw the Parmanu concept from the philosopher or from the Indian philosopher Kannada. Then we also saw what the Greek philosopher Democritus said, that it is made up of smallest particle called as the matter. Now let us move one step ahead. Dalton's atomic theory. Dalton's atomic theory, which was put very recently in 1808. He was the English chemist. So he proposed the atomic theory. Let us see the main postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. The first thing, Atom is made up of very fine and minute particles which are electrically neutral, called as the atoms. He said these minute particles are electrically neutral and they are indivisible. They cannot be created and they cannot be destroyed. Indivisible. You cannot divide them, you cannot create them, you cannot destroy them. All atoms of the same element are identical with respect to their mass and properties. All the atoms of the same element. Suppose if I take the atoms of sodium, all of them are identical with respect to their mass and properties. That means they will have the same mass and they will have the same chemical properties if they belong to the same element. Now, the atoms of one element are different from the atoms of other element. The atoms of one element are different from the atoms of other element. Obviously, the atoms of hydrogen will be different from the atoms of oxygen with respect to their properties, with respect to their mass. Now, the atoms are smallest unit of matter that takes part in the chemical reaction. Yes. Now also we say the same thing, that the atom is the smallest particle that takes part in a chemical reaction, or chemical reaction takes place only because of the involvement of the atoms, only because of the involvement of the atoms. Then atoms of one element combines with the atom of another element in a fixed ratio, in a fixed ratio. So one atom of an element combines with another atoms or atom, but in a fixed ratio, and when they combine, they will form the molecule, they will form a molecule. So they can combine very easily. So a chemical reaction takes place over there. The number and types of atom in a given compound are always fixed. Yes, very nice. In India, the table salt that we eat consists of NaCl, sodium chloride. But when we move to the other parts of the world, suppose from India, if we move to Japan, yeah, last year we went to Japan with all our friends. So over there, the common salt that they are using, yes, obviously it will consist of again sodium and chlorine, NaCl. So the formula is not going to change. The number of atoms is also not going to change. Move in any parts of the world, any part of the world, the number and type of atoms in a given compound will be fixed and similar. Okay, and the atoms combine in a simple numerical ratio. The atoms combine in a simple numerical ratio. That is, let us see one example. H2, 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. So the ratio is 2 as to 1. 2 as to 1. Simple numerical ratio. Water, 2 as to 1. Is it clear? Next example, HCl. 1 hydrogen, 1 chlorine. The ratio is 1 as to 1. The ratio is 1 as to 1. Is it clear? Next example, H2SO4. Sulfuric acid. H2SO4. Sulfuric acid. H2. So 2 hydrogen. H2. 2 hydrogen. S, 1 sulfur. O4, 4 hydro oxygen. H2, 2 as to 1 sulfur as to 4 oxygen. 2 as to 1 as to 4. Simple molecular ratio. Is it clear? So they combine in a simple numerical ratios. They combine in a simple numerical ratio to form the respective compounds. Okay, dear friends, now let us start the discovery of proton, electron, and neutrons. So, to discover something, we require few instruments, isn't it? So, in the discovery of this proton, electron, neutrons, one of the important instrument was the discharge tube at that time. So, firstly, let us see about this discharge tube. What is this discharge tube? How it works? So, I'll just show you a material which is present at our home. Yeah, so let us see. Consider this as that discharge tube. Okay, consider this as a discharge tube. Now see here, the shape is little bit tapering at one end. Okay, tapering at one end, but the discharge tube is actually, it is of the same width. Okay, same diameters. It should be same. But let us see this example now of the discharge tube. So what happens? This discharge tube is a long tube made up of glass, and Both the ends are closed. Both the ends are closed. Is that clear? And now it has two metal plates at the both ends. One metal plate inside here and one metal plate over here. A small gap is left from both the sides. And a metal plates are placed over here. Is it clear? Leaving a small gap, metal plates are placed inside. And now a battery is connected from here to the metal plate. Okay, through a wire, this metal plate is connected to the battery and it is connected to the negative terminal of the battery. This metal plate inside, which is present over here, is connected to the negative terminal of the battery, and hence it is called as the cathode. This plate is called as the cathode. And this plate, which is kept over here inside, placed very firmly, very nicely, is connected to the positive terminal of the battery. Is connected to the positive terminal of the battery and called as anode. So what is there inside this? Two metallic plates, one acting as a cathode and this one acting as a anode, and the battery is kept outside. Battery is kept outside. Now there is also a small hole over here for applying the vacuum. You can remove the air by using this small inlet over here. So the required vacuum can be created very easily by using the vacuum pump. So this is the arrangement. Now what happens? Firstly, vacuum is applied, all the air inside it is removed. Okay, and now a high potential around 1000 volt is applied across the plates by using this battery. A high potential of around 1000 volts is applied and the pressure is very low inside. All the air inside is removed. And now what happens is, this is your plate A, this is your plate B. Behind the plate B, that is behind the anode, cathode, anode. So behind anode, we can see a greenish yellow color over here. Behind the plate anode, greenish yellow color glowing over here. A glow, very nice glow will be seen over here. Okay, and what was that? This glow is caused by the invisible rays. See, the rays were coming from here, but were they visible? No, they were visible behind this plate anode. Okay, so this greenish glow is caused by the invisible rays that emerge from the cathode, under the given conditions. What were the conditions? The voltage of around 1000 volts and minimum pressure. Okay, and so the glow which was caused behind the anode, because of the invisible rays traveling from the cathode, under the given conditions were called as the cathode rays. Invisible, they were not seen in this distance. Can you see? When they traveled between this much distance, they were not seen. From cathode to anode, they were not seen. But now they are seen behind this anode. So the invisible rays emerging from the cathode under the given conditions in the tube, they are called as the cathode rays, and they are traveling from cathode to anode. That means they are attracted towards the anode. Is this clear? And this whole setup is called as the discharge tube. And which was used for to discover the cathode rays. Now what happened? The scientists started studying these cathode rays, and they came upon few observations. So what was that? The first thing they found that when something is placed in between this cathode and anode, some object is placed in between this cathode and anode, and when the battery is connected under very low pressure, the cathode rays will be given out. The cathode rays will travel here, but they will cast a shadow of the object that is placed in between their path. They will cast a shadow. This says that the cathode rays travel in a straight line. Is that clear? And second observation, if a paddle wheel is placed, which can move very easily, it can be made up of paper also. isn't it? So what will happen when the cathode rays fall on this wheel? You can call it as a paddle wheel or a paper wheel, which is very, very light in weight. When the cathode rays travel from here, they will fall on the paddle wheel and the paddle wheel will start rotating. The paddle wheel will start rotating. This shows that the cathode rays consist of stream of fast moving particles. Why it will move? Because something is falling on that. So it indicates that the cathode rays consist of a stream, continuously flowing particles. Okay, it consists of a stream of continuously fast moving particles. These were the two observations at that time. The first observation, they travel in a straight line, and secondly, they consist of a stream of fast moving particles. Simple observations at that time. So this is all about the discharge tube which was used at that time. Dear friends, did you got it? Hello everyone. You can just pause over here for a while, drink water, and then you can again join back. Okay, just pause over here for 2 minutes and then you can again join back by drinking a little amount of water. Okay, now by using the discharge tube, let us move ahead a little bit towards the discovery of electrons. But by using the same concept, that is our discharge tube. What happened in the discharge tube? Cathode rays were emitted. Cathode rays were emitted, isn't it? So let us see how they were used, or these cathode rays were used for the discovery of electrons. So dear friends, what happened is cathode, anode, cathode, anode. The cathode rays are traveling over here. The cathode rays were traveling over here. So what Mr. J.J. Thomson did, scientist J.J. Thomson did, when the cathode rays were traveling over here, he increased the distance over here. Okay, the discharge tube was made little bit bigger. The discharge tube was made little bit bigger. And what he did, he applied two plates over here, a negative plate and a positive plate. A negative plate and a positively charged plate. Okay, and now you know that the cathode rays are traveling over here. The cathode rays are traveling over here. So what happens? This is your cathode, this is your anode, cathode, anode. And when the cathode rays are traveling, a negative plate was placed, a positive plate was placed. And what happened was, he found that these cathode rays were attracted downside, that is towards the positive plate. When the cathode rays were traveling in a straight way, they were attracted, deflected little bit down. They were deflected little bit down, okay, towards the positive plate, indicating that the cathode rays must consist of particles which are negatively charged. That the cathode rays, as they are attracted or deflected towards the positive side, indicating that these cathode rays must be made up of negatively charged particles, and he called them as the electrons. And he found that for all the cathode rays, or the particles of the cathode ray, they have a constant charge by mass ratio. They have a constant charge by mass ratio, and the mass of the cathode rays was around 1 by 1840 times the mass of hydrogen atom. Very, very less. 1 divided by 1840 times the mass of hydrogen atom, which was very, very light. That means these particles, that is the electrons, they were very, very light in their weight. Okay, and now these subatomic particles which traveled from cathode to anode and were deflected towards the positive plate. Okay, discharge tube said that they traveled from cathode to anode. Sir J.J. Thomson said that they traveled from cathode to anode, but were also deflected towards the positive plate. Okay, and they were the negatively charged particles, very, very light, very, very small, and he called them as the corpuscles. and he called them as the corpuscles, and today we call them as the electrons. We call them as the electrons. So in this way, the electrons were discovered by using the discharge tube experiment only. Cathode rays traveling from cathode to anode. J.J. Thomson inserted a positive and a negative plate, negative and a positive plate, and the cathode rays were deflected, attracted towards the positive plate, indicating that these cathode rays are negatively charged particles, or a beam of negatively charged particles which is attracted towards the positive plate, indicating that it consists of negatively charged particles which were called as corpuscles, and later on these are called as the electrons. So this discharge tube experiment helped Sir J.J. Thomson to discover the electrons, Okay, now dear friends, the scientists at that time, they all were thinking that electrons are discovered, but now in the atom, there must be something called as the nucleus, or some positively part present, which consists of some particles. And they were working to discover that. And they discovered the nucleus. Or he was scientist Rutherford who discovered nucleus. How he discovered? Let us start that work now. So it was scientist Rutherford in 1911, through the gold foil scattering experiment, he discovered the nucleus, and he was helped by scientist Geiger and Marsden. They were working under scientist Rutherford. Okay, so what they did? They took a gold foil. And the diameter or the thickness of this gold foil was very, very thin. It was very, very thin gold foil. Okay. Now what happened is, let us consider this as a gold foil made up of large number of small tiny particles called as the atoms. Let us consider this as a gold foil made up of tiny particles, thousands and millions of tiny particles called as the atom. And out of that gold foil, I am going to show you only one atom. Okay, a gold foil was taken, and out of that gold foil, we are only going to concentrate on one atom. And so let us study the experiment that they carried out on this gold foil. So what they did, they took the alpha particles, or they bombarded this gold foil by the alpha particles, and alpha particles are, or alpha rays are, positively charged particles. Alpha particles are the positively charged particles, and they bombarded this gold foil by alpha particles or alpha rays. So what is going to happen when the alpha rays, see, this is the alpha ray, suppose this is a beam of alpha ray consisting of positively charged particles, So what's going to happen when they bombard, or when they are bombarded on this positively charged, when they are bombarded on this atom or the gold foil, what happens? Let us start that. So dear friends, alpha particle is being bombarded on this atom. When it is bombarded over here, yes, when it is bombarded over here, it passed very easily. And it was seen on the fluorescent screen. A fluorescent screen was adjusted over here, and this alpha particle was seen over here. So see here, alpha particle is coming, passing very easily. So most of the alpha particles, they were very easily passing through the gold foil. Almost all. But some of the alpha particles, they were deflected at small angles of their path. Let us see how. So when they are coming over here, and when they are bombarding near this black spot, coming near, not on the black spot, near the black spot, when they are passing nearby the black spot, they are deflected a little from their path. They are deflected a little from their path. See, they are moving away from their path. When they are coming near the black spot, they are deflected a little from their spot, indicating that a small positively charged body is present at the center of the atom. These are positively charged. When they will get deflected, if there is something positive over here, and as they were seen deflected, a fluorescent screen was over here, and it was seen they were deflected. So as some of the alpha particles were deflected, it shows that it indicated that at the atom, or in the atom at the center, there must be a small tiny positively charged body present at the center. A small positively charged body present at the center. And the third observation, the first one is mostly all of them passed in a straight line, indicating that most of the atom is empty. Most of the atom is empty. Some of them were deflected, indicating that at the center there must be a positively charged body present. And the third observation, some of the alpha particles, when they hit the black spot, they were deflected, rebounded back again. See, they were heated and they were deflected back again, rebounded back again. Coming, hitting on the black spot and rebounding back. Indicating that the centrally located body must be dense and hard, and these are positively charged particles. So this must be positively charged body, which is hard and dense, and therefore they must be deflected back or rebounded back, indicating that in the atom at the center, there is a positively charged body called as the nucleus. And how can we say it is positively charged? Because these rays consist of positively charged particles. So positive, they will undergo deflection. They will not get attracted. Isn't it? So this indicated that atom consists of central positive part called as the nucleus. Okay, and in this nucleus there must be subatomic particles, which led to the discovery of protons. So dear friends, till now we saw the discovery of electrons and nucleus. Now in the next video we are going to see the discovery of protons and the neutrons. So this was the first video. Let us have a break over here again, have some water, a little bit of fast breakfast that we have daily, a short breakfast, and just join on to the second video. Okay, thank you everyone. Yeah, good day.